Oh, I'm so tired. I'm so tired of doing this. This is like the 7th take. It's on the road, you know, and cars. But okay, so today we are gonna talk about shutter speed, aperture, and ISO, and how all of those things play into the basic parts of taking a photo. Now I gotta get out of the road because there's a bus coming. So I'm gonna do this at a different place. The place that we're gonna go is a place that I have shot at 2 times and been part of a photo shoot once before. I think that's about it. We'll just kind of get over there because at this point I don't want to lose any more light. So let's do it. All right, cool. That was totally teleportation, not me doing some type of camera trick or anything like that. That was cheesy, dude. I had to take off that jacket because it was really hot, and after doing all that running, I was sweating quite a bit. So we're gonna get out of the car now. This behind me is the location that I was talking about. It's like I'm pretty sure the barn is still being used, but I'm not entirely sure because I never actually see people out here and we don't get kicked out. So that's kind of cool. But there's some old cars. You know what? We're just gonna kind of slowly push in that music. We're gonna pull down those matte bars and we're gonna cue those cinematic shots. Okay, so I have to redo all of what I did the other day because the camera was far too close to my face. Crop sensor was on, all those shenanigans. So basically I didn't want it to be like here. So I'm gonna redo this. We're gonna quickly talk about shutter speed, aperture, and ISO, and what those 3 things do and how they play with light. The first thing we'll talk about is shutter speed. Shutter speed is essentially the speed at which your camera takes a photo. So the lower the shutter speed, the slower it takes a photo. The higher the shutter speed, the faster it takes a photo. The reason why the speed of which it takes a photo is important is because the lower the shutter speed is, the more light that comes in. So imagine that through the lens comes the light and goes onto your sensor inside your camera. The shutter blades that are inside that open and close, those are the things that are being adjusted by your shutter speed. So shutter opens, light comes in, hits the sensor, closes, your camera starts processing the image. Now, with a slower shutter speed, the longer it's open and the more light that comes in, the more possibility that you could get a blurry photo. Because it's open, your camera is taking in more of movement and what the camera is seeing. So there's this possibility that your camera can get a blurry image. With the faster shutter speed, as that light comes in very quickly, it opens and closes instantly. And that allows less light to come in, but your images are way more crisp. There's this give and take that you have to find with playing with the light and finding out which shutter speed works best for you while also getting the sharpest image that you can get. The second thing that we're going to talk about is aperture. Aperture is your depth of field. If your lens goes down to a 1.8, we'll just use 1.8 as an example. Some of them only go down to 4, sometimes only go down to 5.6. But if your lens goes down to a 1.8, 1.8 is wide open. Wide open means that the aperture blades that are inside your lens are wide open. And the bigger that the number goes, the more closed that they get. So with 1.8, it's wide open, more light comes in, and your depth of field is smaller. And what I mean by depth of field is smaller, if you were focusing on me and there were things behind me, I would be in focus, but everything behind me would be blurred. With a higher aperture number, those blades are more closed in, so it's a smaller pin. Less light comes in, but you get a much larger depth of field. So if I was in focus, things that were behind me would be not exactly in focus, but you would be able to see them a bit more. The images are more detailed behind me. So in short, the smaller number that you have on your aperture, the more light that comes in, but the less depth of field that you have. And the larger number that you have on your aperture, the less light that comes in, but the more depth of field that you have. And the last thing that we're going to talk about is ISO. And ISO is simply the sensitivity on your sensor, meaning the lower the number it is, the less sensitive it is to light, and the higher that the number is, the more sensitive it is to light. Now, the only sacrifice that comes into play with ISO is the amount of grain or noise that you have in your photo. And what that means is the lower number that you have for ISO, the cleaner and smoother that your image is going to look. But as you start cranking up your ISO a little bit more, you start getting in those higher numbers, it could be grainier, it could be more noisy, it kind of looks like static. I'll give an example on the video here. And that grain that you just saw is what happens when you bump up your ISO way too high. Now, depending on your camera, some cameras handle ISO a little bit better than others, but that just depends on the age of it and the quality of the camera, and there are multiple different factors that play into it. But you can still get a good looking photo with any camera as long as you have good lighting, meaning daytime light or artificial lighting off to the side. So with those three things being mentioned, you have to find the happy medium between shutter speed, aperture, and ISO to find a nice even lighting for your photo. That's not to say that underexposed or overexposed photos aren't good looking, because depending on what you're going for, you could end up getting whichever. But if you want a nice evenly lit photo, you have to find that happy medium between those three. I hope this video was helpful. If you dig what I put out, go ahead and give this video a like and leave something below in the comments to let me know what you thought. If you aren't already subscribed, go ahead and click that red button and subscribe to the channel. I don't really like doing that whole like, comment, subscribe thing, but that's kind of what you gotta do. Last thing, dude, the Sony a7 III is coming out in like a month, and I'm so excited for that camera. Oh, it's gonna, if you haven't seen anything on it, and if you're interested in cameras at all, go give that a look. That is a beautifully made camera, and I might do like an unboxing of it or something. I'm getting that thing the second it comes out. Okay, I'm done.